It's double overtime. It's season 2. We're back, baby.
We back.
I'm Jenna. He's Sasha. Sasha, we're into season 2. It's 2023. It's double overtime. Double season 2. It's happening. We're doing it. How exciting.
I'm excited. I know we've done like 3 or 4 episodes in between last season and this season, but like now we're like in season 2. We're ready. We have things to like really talk about, and I'm excited.
We have announcements. We have rosters. We have news. We have news that's literally breaking as of recording this. We're recording this Wednesday night, January 18th. I think I got that date right. And we have news that is breaking tonight that we are going to talk about. But first, we were both in Southern California over the weekend. Rainy Southern California. I was at Throwback. Sasha, you were at Layout. Sasha, how was your weekend? How was the West Coast? You get to meet some cool people?
I did get to meet some cool people. I met Lexi Garrity. That most of you, I hope everyone knows who Lexi Garrity is.
Hopefully.
Of Seattle fame. Jasmine Childress and Caitlin Weaver as well, along with a bunch of other people. There were so many people that I met and saw, and yeah, it was a pretty good time.
Yeah, and I was at Throwback playing with a team, Blahaj Blast, that had its origin in a trans ultimate Discord. There's a Discord server for trans non-binary ultimate players, and a group of us were like, we should make a team together. And I have been dreaming about making a trans-centric, trans-led team for years now, and finally it happened at Throwback. We had a great time, even in the rain, got to play some actual ultimate on Sundays. So very pleased about that. In the Bay Area tonight, Wednesday night, we're going to get our last little bit of rain and then finally have some dry weather. Oh my goodness. And dry weather means you can actually play Ultimate. And boy, is there Ultimate happening around the country. We're going to be going into depth on everything Western Ultimate League that we know of as of this point, including rosters, because guess what? As this podcast is dropping, as you are listening it, the Western Ultimate League player sponsorship program should be open and available. You should be able to go and sponsor and support your favorite team, your favorite player. We're going to highlight some players that we think are cool, that hopefully you'll think are cool, and tell you about the rosters and how they changed. And we'll get to picks down the line. Rosters first. But first, Sasha, PUL, let's talk about it. News as of tonight.
News as of tonight is that the PUL is hiring a commissioner. Jenna, thoughts?
I think it's really interesting timing. For one, all of the PUL teams have announced tryouts that are going to be happening at the end of this month, end of January, early February. So the timing of announcing a commissioner after trial announcements have gone out, but before tryouts have happened, is notable to me. I encourage folks to go look at the specifics of the position, especially if you are interested at all in potentially being Premier Ultimate League Commissioner. It is a paid contracted position for 6 months, $5,000 a month for $30,000 total. 40-hour week contract position to help run the league, basically. And the PUL has had a commissioner before, out of Austin Bonesaw, but they're hiring a new commissioner, and I would presume that they're hoping to have someone in place before the season starts. I would presume. But it feels like a little late timing, and the timing of the announcement on a random Wednesday evening in January feels a little notable, strange. But I'm excited for the PUL to continue to grow, to be paying a reasonable salary because yes, it's 30,000 total, but only over a 6-month period, to someone to help run the league. I think this continues to show investment and willingness to put money into making the league actually happen and function as a sports league, which I'm very excited about. So again, if you're interested, POL has posted on their socials. So go check it out if you are interested or know someone who you think might be interested in that position. Sasha, any other thoughts on the commission posting? Again, this is dropping like as we're recording this, right before we're recording this. So we don't have any more information outside of what's on the announcement.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the timing is interesting. You would think that it would have happened much earlier. But hopefully someone will step up and, be able to do a very, very good job.
Yeah, hopefully, because we want to see the league succeed, and having a good commissioner, a strong commissioner, one who's committed and able to put in the time and effort, the 40 hours and probably plus a week that it will take to do this job properly. I hope they're able to find the right person and have that person in place in time for when everything gets fully underway. Although again, tryouts are already being posted and scheduled and about to be hosted as of when this podcast is dropping in your feed. So we'll see. We'll keep you updated on the pod when we know anything more, if we hear anything more about the hiring process or what have you. We'll try and keep you up to date as much as we can.
Yeah.
When it comes,
yeah. So speaking of, tryouts, I think the Minnesota Strike have already had their first round of tryouts, getting started kind of pretty early, with their tryout process to get the team together, which I think is good.
Yeah. I mean, better
more
than
time together
later.
Yeah, exactly. And with tryouts, we have signings already. Like there's some of these teams are signing players already. And like Indy Red with Anastasia Foster, and they've also have a few others that have signed as well from their past few seasons, and some very strong players.
Yeah, Philly Surge, the new team, already announcing a crew of players. A couple from AMP, Brahma Zafari, Linda Morse, two of the more notable names. Makes sense. Play for Philly AMP, play for Philadelphia Surge. Notably, Casey Gorman, most known and most associated, I think, with Scandal, playing with Surge and not with Shadow. So we'll see if there are more. Presumably, there will be more DC pickups for Surge down the line. And also Emma Soiles. Soiles also signed as well. Soiles played with Philly Flight. So presumably we'll also see more players out of that Philly women's division team joining as well, joining Soiles on the Surge roster. And exciting to see that Philly already getting things underway, already getting folks signed and announced ahead of their more formal, larger tryout situation. Also, in terms of notable announcements, the NLS Seoul have both announced some players and coaches, but I think most notably, most interestingly to me, is the establishment of an equity arm to the organization. The Seoul have more description about what this means on their social media. If you want to learn more about what their goals are as an organization. But Sasha, thoughts on, I think this is really kind of the first time we've seen a POL team, and maybe arguably, I think certainly semi-pro team, putting equity and conversations around social justice so central, while also pairing that with, we have a competitive side and we're running a team and we have this equity arm as well. Any thoughts?
I think it's good. I think it was one of the main things that I think the PUL was doing at the very beginning as well. And so it kind of feels like, as the league is growing and as the PUL is like starting to kind of not get rid of their social justice, but like kind of shift towards more of a sports league, that the Atlanta Soul is saying, like, yes, this is still really important to us as well, and we're going to keep doing this.
Yeah, and it's been something, right, that we've talked about and other folks have talked about with the POL, and I think has come up at least in some of the conversations around Revolution leaving the league. Comments by Mauricio Moore talking about Medellin leaving the POL, talking about they want to really focus on their players, and the cost of travel is pretty high. And they were really trying to consider, how do we actually pay our players in a way that centers them as athletes? And it sort of felt sometimes like, is the POL a social justice organization that also does sports, or is this a sports organization that also does social justice? And I think Soul is trying to do both in a way that feels more sustainable and thoughtful and centered in a way. And I am going to be curious to see if other teams try and follow, or if this is going to be a Atlanta and Atlanta only thing. And we'll see also how successful it is and what updates we get from the Soul organization, and see how the team does. Hopefully better than last year, because last year was a little rough for Atlanta. But regardless of the results, I'll be very interested to hear how the equity initiatives continue and how that's integrated with the ultimate side of the organization.
Yeah. Soul they have a new coach, basically. One, Lisa Fitton. I don't know if you know who Lisa is, Jenna.
Can't say I'm really familiar. But
all right. So I got you. Because Lisa is a friend of mine. Lisa actually is coaching the South Carolina Open team. So nice. I've been able to coach with Lisa, and she has been playing with Atlanta Soul for a few years as well, and is switching to coaching this year. Probably because she is pregnant and due in May.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
So very exciting. Congratulations, Lisa. But yeah, she's a very good coach, very good player, very good coach, and I think that she'll bring a positive, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, positive vibe, I guess, to to the Atlanta team, and hopefully they can find some success through it.
Yeah, hopefully. And we've seen teams, the PL teams in particular, announce their coaches before any or many of their roster announcements. Atlanta among them. Also, some other notable coaching announcements are Eileen Murray, back for Gridlock, longtime coach and stalwart in the New York Ultimate scene. Ty Aderhold, who coached Scandal this past season, is back for DC Shadow. And Caitlin Murphy, who played this past club season with Noise, is moving into the head coaching role for Monarch. So interesting to see Murph moving more from that player role in club to the coaching role for the Monarchs. Murph's a friend. I hope she does amazing and leads the Monarchs to success under her leadership this coming year. So we'll definitely see and hear more about POL announcement stuff in the coming weeks. Again, most teams hosting most of their tryouts at the end of January, early February. So we'll keep you appraised with what we know. But we have rosters. We have player sponsorship program stuff happening for the Western Ultimate League. We're going to take a break. When we get back, Sasha and I, we're going through the rosters. We're going over the big names that have moved, the big names that are new, the big names that are gone, and some players that you may not be as familiar with that you should keep an eye out for. And if you're looking for players to sponsor, keep an eye out for these names as you peruse the list of amazing players that adorn all of the rosters in the Western Ultimate League. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Double Overtime. talking Western Ultimate League rosters. All the rosters are out. Player sponsorship program should, as of this podcast dropping, be available to see, to browse and view all the incredible jerseys of the teams, all the incredible players from all the different teams. We're not going to be able to talk about everyone because there are so many incredible players from all these incredible teams. So we're just going to highlight some of the names that you should know, some of the names you might not know, and especially any additions and losses from any of the teams from last season, starting with the champions returning to defend the crown, Seattle Tempest. They bring back the vast majority of their title-winning squad, notably no Gina Titcomb this time around for Seattle. But for the most part, the names you know from Seattle will be back. And then they add Caitlin Rowling and Leah Barron-Sims, both who most recently played for BFG, Rowling playing for the Milwaukee Monarchs before as well. Abby Hecko joins, the 2021 D1 College Player of the Year, played this past season in club with Seattle Riot. Before that, was a second team all club with Seattle Mixtape. Josie Gillette, your 2019 Donovan winner. Sadie Jezierski, whose accolades are innumerable at this point, it feels like, playing with all sorts of teams, Cocktails, Team USA teams, etc., as well as Corinne Elmy of Riot and UW Element, Washington Element. So quite the quite the roster, Sasha, huh? It beggars belief how good this Seattle roster is, given that they won the title seemingly pretty comfortably last year.
Yeah, and then they add all of these other people now. I don't have a lot of words to say because I don't see this team not being able to defend their title.
It would take a lot, it feels like, for Seattle to lose. And we'll get there. It would take a team that was close to challenging Seattle last year, adding some really big talent. And we're going to get there in a sec. But Seattle is so consistent in the talent that they churn out, in their ability to bring back championship squads time and time and time again, that it makes sense that the Tempest roster this season is so loaded. And it's also kind of absurd that it's so loaded. But when you have in the club mixed division the last two national champions in Mixtape and BFG bringing talent into this one roster, and you have Riot, it's not a shock. You have Element, who went to the final of the college championships in 2021. It's not surprising. And it also means that when you're looking for players to sponsor, you'll probably recognize most of the names. And so an exercise that Sasha and I kind of gave ourselves was let's try to highlight some lesser known players. And Sasha, you were assigned Seattle to select someone that people might not know very much about. And tell the listeners, was that a challenge? Maybe slightly a challenge?
It's nearly impossible to do this. I can when y'all see this roster, you're gonna be like, oh wow, yeah, that person. There's hardly a name on this list where you're gonna be like, oh, I don't know who that is. It's insane.
Ridiculous. So
real quick side note, what's wild about this roster is that, so at the top of the show I mentioned that I met Lexi Garrity and at Layout, and so I talked to her for a second about this team, and I was like, Lexi, how did y'all get these players? and she told me that every single person on this roster is living in Seattle. There's not a single travel player on this
Oh
roster.
my goodness. Oh my goodness.
And I was like, that's
Sadie's living in Seattle now?
Yeah.
God.
Everyone lives in Seattle.
God.
And another
Good luck
thing
to everyone
she was
else.
telling, yeah, for real. Another thing she was telling me was that, like, she said that last year success from this team came because their practices were harder than the games they played in.
That's what Fury always says. And look where it's gotten them. So
exactly.
That tracks.
And so I feel like, you know, adding these absolutely insane players too will make those practices even harder, which will make game time easier for them. Like I said, I don't it's hard to bet against them right now. But yeah, so going through this list, like everybody, a lot of people, we're gonna know a lot of names. One name that I think that people need to watch more closely is Ikki Elmi. Ikki played for, I believe she graduated, University of Washington Element, played on Riot last year. She played in the Color of Ultimate showcase at college championships in Milwaukee. I got to play some Golty with her before that, and she's really good. She has some great throws, great instincts, and is a fun player to watch. And she's very easy to pick out because she always wears a jersey that's like 2 sizes too big for her, and it's on backwards. Like that's her thing, and that's awesome, and I love it. But yeah, Ikki Elmi is one player that maybe not a ton of people have heard of on this Seattle team, but is one to watch.
Yeah. Gonna be great. And Seattle, oh my goodness, this roster. But titles are necessarily one on paper. And I think that the next team is going to have also a consideration for a very, very good roster, at least on paper.
Oh yeah, next team, the runner-ups, San Diego Super Bloom. So the Super Blue team, they return most everybody, really. I don't know if they lost anybody. I don't remember. But I mean, you know, they still have Alex Diaz and Kristen Pojunas and Kayla Helton and all the Kelly Iwamoto and all these other players. And then they added people.
They did. Goodness gracious, they added people.
They added people. Maybe y'all have heard of someone named Dana Elimelech.
Maybe, perhaps.
Penny Wu. Ever heard of her? like what? A couple of UCSB alums, Yu Ishii and Elsa Winslow as well. Yeah,
that is stacked roster. Also, just the continuity, both for Seattle and for Super Bloom, cannot be undersold, because we have to remember, it feels like the Western Ultimate League has been around for a while, but this is only the second full season. So teams that are able to carry over the vast majority of their roster from the first season to the second season will at least presumably have a lot of ability to grow and be better overall. And then you add the plug and play players of Penny and Dina and Yu and Elsa, who all 4 of them, superstar players in their own right, able to slot in easily. Like this, oh my goodness, the Super Bloom roster.
Yeah, it's It's great. Like I'm loving I'm loving this personally. Like this is really really cool to see how like we can, I guess, create super teams now, and it's awesome, and I love it. And I think that Super Bloom has its sights set for obviously the championship. Like they came up a little bit short, and they wanted to add these great players to actually push for the championship.
And I think they have done that. And I think at least we'll talk about get to the rest of the teams, the 6 other teams. I think initially my initial reaction is on paper, Seattle and San Diego on paper have by far and away the best rosters.
Agreed.
But games aren't won on paper. They're won on the field by players actually playing the game. So we'll see. But to add these offseason moves to take Dina away from LA, which is not only strengthening yourself, but weakening an opponent, a regional opponent, is kind of wild. Very impressive in general. The 4 players mentioned, Penny, Dina, you, and Elsa, are not the only pickups for San Diego, though. And one who I particularly want to shout out, because she's a friend of mine from the Bay Area, now in Southern California, is Sydney Hranek, who's played for a long time in the Bay Area, has played mixed with a team called Barbecue up here in the Bay. Went to Cal, played with the Pie Queens. Also goes by Buddha as her nickname. Super dynamic, athletic player, tall, able to get up for all sorts of grabs. I've had the joy of matching up against Buddha quite a number of times, and I am super, super excited to see what she can do in the pro scene with San Diego with this loaded roster. So if you're someone like me who's in the Bay Area and maybe all the Falcons people, or maybe all the Falcons jerseys are sold out, or you want to support someone from a different team that's not your local team, maybe think of Buddha as a potential option for sponsorship. So we'll see. I'm very excited. This Super Bloom roster overall, absolutely loaded. Oh my goodness, jam-packed with talent. So yeah. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Real quick side note before we move on. Talk just very, very briefly about Yu Ishii. Jenna, have you heard Yu's music?
I don't know if I have.
Okay.
Does Yu make music?
Yu makes music. If
that's
you
cool.
Look her up, just type in her name on Spotify, Yu, spelled Y-U, Ishii, I-S-H-I-I. You will find her music, and she is very good. It is very good.
Okay.
So everyone, go stream Yu's music.
Now we have both player sponsorship recommendations and music recommendations on Double Overtime. You got it all here. Goodness gracious. Let's keep talking about the championship weekend teams. Talked about Seattle, talked about San Diego. Let's talk about Oregon. Oregon, who came on the scene, didn't play in the Winter Cup, played last season, made championship weekend, looked pretty good doing it. Took a loss in the 3rd place game against Arizona Sidewinders, we're going to talk about next. But I think throughout the season, probably pretty comfortably looked like the 2nd or 3rd best team in the league behind Seattle and or San Diego. And like both of those teams, most of their core is back. Although they do have some notable additions, both some of the youth and some of the vets. So let's start with the vets. Among the Onyx additions, and we're not going to mention all of the different additions and losses because we just can't cover it all. But among them are Merle Hammond, who was a huge contributor for Schwab before getting injured a couple years ago. Merle is back, going to be a big impact player for Onyx. And Oregon just gets to casually add a Callahan winner to their roster, Chelsea Putnam joining as the 2003 Callahan winner. So plenty of veteran talent coming in for Onyx, plenty of youth talent. Oregon Downpour, South Eugene, gender diverse, both very successful youth teams as of late. And a couple of players joining from those crews, some U20, U24 talent, Trout Waybright playing their first year with Fugue, was selected to the U24 team this year, and Acacia Han, who captained the U20 team last year and is going to play their first year with Western Washington. Couple college rookies, going to be pro rookies as well, but these are two standout players if that wasn't already obvious by their Team USA selection.
Yeah, they're incredible. I've watched a few of their games from their YCC Oregon Downpour because they were playing against the Utah Swarm YCC team in semis 2 years ago and then in the finals this last year. And yeah, they're good. That Oregon team is very good. And actually one of the player that I'm highlighting for this Oregon team is Acacia Han. And I know people are like, "Oh yeah, you're choosing someone that captained the U20 team." Listen, I
mean, I have said that to you, Sasha. I think it's a little silly that you pick someone who literally captained the U20 team this past summer.
Listen,
I get it. Again, like all these rosters, they're just packed with incredible players. So you got to pick somebody.
And I went and watched some film of Acacia today, and you know how there are players that specialize in one specific thing. Like there's like players,
Robin Fennig is like one of the best throwers on the planet in the club division. Yeah.
Or like you have other people that are like, this person plays defense and they play defense only, and they're not super great at throwing, but they are the best defensive player I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Acacia is not one of those people. Acacia does everything well. She has everything. All the throws, the defense, the positioning, it's incredible to watch them play. And I think that they're going to make a very good addition to this Onyx team.
Yeah, and again, bringing back a large portion of their roster, gonna be fun to watch, certainly. And Onyx still retaining some of those star players from last season, among them Morgan Zajon, Claudia Tajima, Kimber Coles, JC Jones, Julia Sherwood, etc., all back for Onyx. So there's no reason to think that they can't make a repeat appearance at championship weekend. Making it to the final might mean having to go through San Diego or Seattle, which again, on paper, not on the field yet, on paper, might be tough sledding for Onyx to break through to the final. We might end up with the repeat final, but maybe not. Maybe Oregon's going to prove us wrong. And also, we're going to do picks, not now, because rosters just dropped. We don't have a schedule yet. We don't know exactly how that's all shaking out. We're going to get to picks and predictions later. Let us know your thoughts ahead of time. We'll think about them, and then maybe we'll consider them, and maybe not. Yeah.
This Onyx team is great. Like they gave Seattle some really close games this last season.
Yeah,
and I mean
they played an incredible game, a regular season game between the two of them.
We got like the Northwest Challenge basically of Onyx and in Seattle, and those are always really fun games, whether it be college, club, professional level. Those are always great games. One name that we did not mention that is in addition to this Oregon Onyx team is Grace Alston from the Dartmouth days, when Dartmouth was the top of the top. So I think she's gonna do some good here too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. There's some incredible players across the board. Again, we're not mentioning everyone just because
yeah,
there's too many. Check it out. Go look at the pages. Go look at the rosters for yourselves. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know if there are people that we miss talking about that you're like, you absolutely need to talk about this person. If everyone writes in to say we need to talk about everyone, we can't, and we're sorry. But like, let us know if there are players that you think we just egregiously missed on not talking about.
please. Okay,
Yes.
well, moving on. We're going down south a little bit to Arizona, talking about the Arizona Sidewinders. Now, this Arizona team had a lot of losses this year just because of the new Colorado team coming up. A lot of the Arizona team lives in Colorado, and so obviously a lot of them are going to be playing for Alpenglow. Most notably, Aubrey Dietrich and Jade McLaughlin, both of the top goal scorers for this Arizona team. LP Aragorn is no longer on the team as the assist leader for the team. But as always, there are more additions to the team.
Indeed.
We've got Carolyn O'Connell and Carly Garrett both transferring from the PUL over to the WL. They were on, I think they were both on Torch last year, if I'm correct, for Austin Torch. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
or at least played on Torch at one point or another, and O'Connell's out of the Texas Melee college program.
Correct. Nora Landry, a Seattle product, a U24 player. Paige Applegate had a stint with Molly Brown for a while, and then the veteran Chip Chang adding to the ranks Arizona, who played at UCSD and UCLA and was a Callahan nominee for both of those colleges.
Yeah. Chip played some time with Pop, played some time with Molly Brown. Been around the block. It's going to be exciting to see her back playing out on the field in this setting. Certainly with Arizona, they snuck in last season. No denying it. Sorry, Sidewinders fans, but y'all just made it in championship weekend, and yes, there are some great additions to this team, and adding an Alpenglow and with the revamped or coming back rosters of LA and San Francisco and Utah. It might be tough for Arizona to make it back-to-back championship weekends. But they have plenty of talent, plenty of experience. Again, as you mentioned, coming from a range of different backgrounds. A player that I'm going to highlight is Melissa Merrick, who's played in a number of different places, but including some international experience as well, playing with the Costa Rican national team at PAOK in 2019, playing with a team out of Bogota for World's Masters Club Championships this past year. Has played some in the Seattle area, including with Riot in 2021, and some in Phoenix as well. Merrick bringing a lot of different experience from a lot of different places. And I think that's what we're seeing a little bit more of this season from these Wrestling Ultimate League teams, is pulling in some players from different areas, different places, a few travel players, but also some players who've maybe moved to the area. Sidewinders pulling a bit more from the Flagstaff, Arizona Ultimate community that put together their own mixed team this past club season that did pretty well, all things considered. So it'll be interesting to see if the different talent can gel, or whether the losses of Dietrich and McLaughlin and others are a little bit too much for them to overcome to make it back to championship weekend. Because Also with schedule stuff, I'm curious to see because the Sidewinders' only 2 wins last season came at home in the opening weekend of the season in the Sidewinders Showdown like weekend event, mini tournament thing. Does that happen again? Do they get the same kind of home field advantage? We'll see. Sorry, Arizona, of the team so far, yours has the least rosy outlook, but a team's got to go through rebuilding phases, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing necessarily. So, speaking of rebuilding, Sasha, I'm sorry to say, but we got to talk about Utah because Utah finished last in the league last year. High hopes after they won the Winter Cup, and then they finished last. So, what does this season look like for Utah? Well, they similar to Seattle and San Diego and Oregon. They bring back the majority of their roster from 2022. They do lose Jesse Crowley, who's a high volume handler, over 1,000 yards total, contributed throwing and receiving overall. Definitely some losses, but I certainly thought that Utah might lose more players to Colorado than maybe they did. So it's encouraging to see that they're bringing most of their roster back. Again, that continuity could be key for the Wild. And they have a number of key additions. Brooke Stanislawski, Kaylee Caldwell, and Kat Songer coming from that Seattle area, that wealth of talent joining Utah this season. So definitely plenty of, I think, optimism for Utah because arguably can only go up from here, right? Right, Sasha? Right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And they will. I have faith
I believe
in my Utah Wild team. I love them so much. But yeah, my person that I am highlighting here and a new addition to this team that is in my mind a big addition. I know her personally, is Kaylee Caldwell. Talk about Kaylee real quick. Kaylee played for BYU from 2014 to 2018. And for a very long time, there was a debate going on in the Utah, like the BYU alumni circles, that Kaylee Caldwell was the best player to ever come out of BYU.
Wow. That's a big statement for quite the talent production school.
Yeah. I mean, now for me, that's not true because Kendra Miller just won nationals with Molly Brown. And so that debate's kind of over. But yeah, Kaylee is very good. She's honestly like, I would call Acacia, who I talked about earlier, like a mini Kaylee. Like Kaylee does so many things right that she doesn't have like one specific skill set. And I feel, well, this is her first year playing on Wild because the last 2 tryouts she was pregnant. And so now that she is not, she is playing, and it's very exciting. And she's gonna be she's a big defensive presence and a great D-line handler that is gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, should be good, and hopefully will help Utah win a little bit more this season than last. But it's gonna be tough sledding with all these teams. It's gonna be real difficult for teams to pick up wins with all of these incredible rosters.
Yeah, honestly, I don't see like very much separation between like the very top and the bottom of this league, and that's what's awesome about the WUL, in my opinion, is that there's so much concentration of talent that there's, like I said, not a lot of separation. Um, so moving onward, we're now going to be talking about the Los Angeles team, Los Angeles Astra. So LA, for the most part, returns almost everybody. Am I correct in saying that?
I mean, except for Dina,
Except for Dina, obviously.
as mentioned earlier.
Yeah, they some losses with Dina and Brooke Woolridge, who was for the team in stats, second in assists and second in throwing yards as well, and also losing Lexi Roy, who was tied for first in blocks on the team. But despite losing these players, they gain another amazing player in Jasmine Childress, who was Callahan Award winner with UCSB. And if you've never seen Jasmine play, I don't know what you're doing.
Like how? How have you
how?
not seen Jasmine Childress play?
If you haven't, you have to. It's incredible. She yeah, it's she's very, very good. And fun fact about Jasmine is that her one of her seasons, it wasn't her, was it her Callahan Award winning season or was it the season before? I can't remember. There was a season where she just absolutely blew up everybody. And she was playing that entire season with a bone spur in her foot. And it's
yeah, like terrible, but also incredible.
It's incredible to watch. I'm like, wow, she's really good. And then she told everybody, she was like, yeah, I had a bone spur in my foot. And I was like, what? You what? But yeah, so yeah, big addition for LA there. And LA, correct me if I'm wrong, they just barely missed out of championship weekend because of their
it was the whole point differential thing. They didn't cover they didn't cover the spread.
They didn't cover it. So LA, time to cover the spread. You got this.
Yeah, we'll see. And the player I'll highlight did actually play on LA last year. One of the, I think, only player of the players we're highlighting who did play with their team last season tells you something about the Astros' continuity and relative lack of turnover. But Avalon Agawa, Ava's great, great person, great player. I was covering Club Women's for Old Two World at Nationals. Got a chance to cover Flipside in their first season, and was talking to some Flipside players. And one of them told me at one point, like, I know like nobody talks about Avo, but like everyone should be, because she's that good and that like integral to our success. And that's for Flipside. And I think the same can be said for Astra as well. Not necessarily a player that you're necessarily going to like see putting up all of the highlights, but is going to be like the core rock piece player. And I think hopefully going to be only more involved in Astra's success going forward. Only played in 3 of their games last season, so maybe a little bit more availability for Avo might lead to more success for Astra as they try and break into that championship weekend conversation. So we'll see. But if you're looking for a player sponsor who are coming back for their teams, but you still maybe haven't quite heard of as much, you have recommendation of Avo's teammates that you should go support Avo as a player. So go do the thing, people. But in LA's way to try and make championship weekend is the new team on the block, Colorado Alpenglow. This team doesn't have any returners because they're new. Wow. Whoa, Sasha, no. Everybody's new to this team.
They also notably don't have any losses either.
They don't have any departures. There has been no one who has left the team from the 2022 edition, because that didn't exist. All kidding aside, unsurprisingly, this is a very strong roster across the board, pulling from a bunch of different teams across Colorado, from the mixed division to the women's division. A couple of Molly Brown players. There's been history about Molly Brown players and that program maybe not being on board with the whole pro scene thing, but a couple of players joining Alpenglow who played on the title winning Molly Brown this past season, including goal scoring like savant machine Kristen Reed, and also Robin Fassett Carmen, who played some pretty crucial minutes for Molly Brown at different points at nationals. And then, as mentioned, players coming over from Arizona: Aubrey Dietrich, Jane McLaughlin, and Shayna Brock, another notable name joining on to Alpenglow. And the thing with Alpenglow is that there's a bunch of names that you probably don't know because they haven't played pro before, because there hasn't been a team there. So Sasha, who's the player that you want to shout out in particular? Although again, we encourage everyone to go support all of the players from all of these teams.
Yeah, the player I'm shouting out in particular, when they were first announcing the roster for Alpenglow, her name kind of stood out to me for some reason. I don't know why. Probably because it's a fairly unique name that don't really hear a lot. But yeah, stood out, and it is Bristol Lavoie. Now, Bristol is a product of UT Dallas, University of Texas, Dallas. She also played this year with Mile High Trash, a mixed team out of Denver. And actually briefly met Bristol at Layout as well. Just kind of randomly. Fun. Well, I guess not kind of randomly. My team captain is a UT Dallas alum as well. So they knew each other.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so and Bristol kind of just came over, played a point on our team, and hung out for a minute. But Bristol was kind enough to send me some film from her club season so I could watch her and kind of figure out like what her game is, I guess. And Bristol is a defensive cutter, and she's great at positioning. And she is a motor. Like, she does not stop moving. And I think that's going to be exciting to see how that translates onto the longer 80-yard field while playing defense.
Yeah, but shorter stall count should help the defender. And I mean, I always shout out defensive cutters, because sometimes it's like, oh, anyone who doesn't fit into another role is just a defensive cutter. But no, people can be specifically very good defensive cutters, and I think that's underrated as someone who was maybe formerly at one point a defensive cutter. But yeah, I think that's to your point about getting the chance to watch film of Bristol really for the first time ahead of us recording this podcast speaks to the opportunity, right, that these Alpenglow players and all the players who haven't played pro before to get this chance to be on the stage and be filmed. And the Western Ultimate League's fundraiser, I mentioned this, they ran a fundraiser to help support their streaming and was quite successful, raised over $25,000 if I remember correctly, something like that.
That sounds about right.
And if you want to continue to support streaming and the Western Ultimate League, you can go and donate to the league now, even though their GoFundMe for that specifically, I think, is done at this point. But this is the opportunity so that in the future, when we actually want to watch more content of Bristol being great as a defensive cutter, then we'll have far more opportunity to, because the video will be available to watch because of the opportunity that the Western Ultimate League and the Premier Ultimate League is giving to their athletes.
Yes, please support the leagues. Like,
please.
It costs money. It costs a lot of money.
It does.
Please support them. Support your teams. support the players, support the leagues. Just do
Support
it.
your friends and your friends' friends. The Ultimate community is not that big. And so if you're looking for people to support, it's not very hard to find people who you're not very many degrees of separation away from. Speaking of which, Sasha, want to talk us through at least a little bit of my hometown Falcons?
Hometown Falcons. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about them. We kind of spent most of the time last episode talking about them because they were the only ones with a roster out.
It's true.
They
were ahead of schedule.
They were well ahead of schedule. Shout out to the Falcons. And I think like the biggest takeaway we said was that there are a lot fewer Fury players this time around.
Yeah. Still true.
But yeah, but with that, it might create more continuity with everybody. If that makes any sense. I guess more chemistry with people that are playing together that are
Maybe there's more buy-in potentially in the second year of the team. The Bay Area scene can be so fractured as someone who has lived and played in the Bay for quite a number of years. And so more time for people to come together and develop together. And as we mentioned last time, SF was hit pretty hard by COVID at some key points in the season, which deprived them of some important players. So, we'll see. But we still want to shout out, even though the roster was already out before the player sponsorship program and this pod, as a player that you may not have heard of or may not know on that roster, because still plenty of big name players who've made nationals plenty of times before for one team or another. But one player that I want to shout out, who I've personally played with back in 2019, is Samantha Loop, or Sloop. Played college out in Georgia at Georgia Tech with Rec. Sloop, really dynamic cutter, super speedy. Played this past season for San Francisco Mischief. A great player all around, great person all around. And so very excited to see Sloop get to take the field for the Falcons. Hopefully be able to catch a game or two of the Falcons this season on my end. So if you're looking for Falcons players to support, that again may not have been on the biggest teams necessarily, at least before this past club season, I would highly recommend Sloop as a former teammate of hers. So that's it. Anything else, Sasha, about these rosters, about these teams?
One person that I literally just found, I guess, just looking at these rosters, looking at accolades and stuff like that, for the Falcons is Jacqueline. I don't want to butcher the last name, so I apologize. Jacqueline Wataoka.
Jacqueline Wataoka, yeah, is great.
Yeah,
play with Portland in college in D3.
Yeah, I'm looking at this college accolades: Offensive Player of the Year for 2021, Player of the Year, first runner-up 2021, D3 All-American First Team 2021, and then for 2022, Offensive Player of the Year, Player of the Year, first runner-up, D3 All-American First Team, Donovan finalist, tried out for the U24 national team, and played with Onyx last season.
Onyx last season.
So.
Shout out. So yeah, Jacqueline. Also, this is a total side note. Jacqueline was the sectional coordinator, I'm pretty sure, for mixed in the Bay this past season, and sectional coordinators don't get enough credit. So shout out Jacqueline for the work to organize stuff in the club division, and I'm very excited to see her play with the Falcons in the pro division. Second season, second different pro team. haven't seen that many of those, but she and Dina and probably and Aubrey and Jade, among a few others, going to get a chance to show what they can do with another different team in the second season. So here's the thing with Sasha, just realizing who all these incredible players are. As we're looking at the roster, we encourage you to go look at these rosters. If there's someone who you don't know, we encourage you to look them up, or try and find it on Ultiworld. See if Ultiworld has talked about them, and if not, you should tell us to talk about them, because we want to talk about more people as much as we can within the limits of our show and being able to write about different players. But I will say, for one, I am very excited for this season, for the Premier Ultimate League season, but especially the Western Ultimate League season. Again, I'm in the Bay, so I feel like I am going to be a little bit more excited for the team that is the closest to home for me. And it's very, very cool. It feels very much more tangible now that we actually have rosters for these teams. Next step, Sasha, we need schedules. We need to know who's playing whom, when, where, how, because then we can make our picks. Folks, we will not be making picks until we know more. And then once again, Sasha and I will be having our little competition about whose picks do better each week. And also, we may just be keeping track of these players that we have selected as players we want to keep an eye on, or players we want to shout out. And we'll do the same, or at least a similar exercise to the Premier Ultimate League. We might be in a little competition to see whose player selections do better. Sasha, how are you feeling about our cadre of picks and challenges against each other in season 2 of Double Overtime?
I'm back with a vengeance.
He's back. He's back, everybody. We're back. Season 2. Sasha, we're back. Season 2, 2023. I'm excited. I hope you're excited.
I'm very excited. I need this. There's not enough. We're in this, like, best word I can think of. We're in this hell right now of no frisbee going on at all. Like, there's nothing
about to start. Santa Barbara invites in 2 weeks. We're getting there. We're getting there, Sasha.
We're there.
We're there. It's season 2. We're excited. We hope y'all are excited. We hope that you'll keep listening, keep sharing the podcast. Get in contact with us, Double OT Pod on Twitter, Double Overtime at ultiworld.com is our contact. You can reach me personally, my personal Twitter. You can reach Sasha on his personal Twitter. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you're excited for this 2023 Western Ultimate League season, for this 2023 Premier Ultimate League season. When we get there, trials gotta happen first for them. We gotta get a schedule for the Western Ultimate League. It's gonna be great. Been Jenna, he's been Sasha. We'll talk to you next time on the next episode, season 2, Double Overtime. Bye.